Welcome to Hanging Out with Robert, that's me. This video contains things that I encounter throughout the day. If for some reason I complete a task and you would like to see the details, you could click on the link in the description area below. This video also contains tips and tricks that I learned throughout the years. I plan on leaving this video accessible for about 30 days. After that, you can view it through my Patreon account. Thank you very much for watching. What's happening, party people? Dealing with Red Baron, consuming oil, and smoking like a train. Mostly smokes at cruising, not really cruising, but coasting with vacuum on the system. It just billows smoke out the back, man. People want to call the cops, them green tree huggers and stuff. But anyway, I think the problem is because the PCV is insufficient. And when the car is in boost, doing something weird inside the engine, causing oil to get somewhere where it shouldn't be. And then when you're coasting or in between shifts, that vacuum just sucks that oil into the exhaust area and poof, it just pours out of that exhaust. I did the valve stem seals thinking that might have been it, but that was not it. So we're about to dig into the PCV system because I think the PCV system is insufficient for the turbo size and power load on the system. Now Red Baron has a 2.4 engine and rip kit, coilover plugs, all that special stuff. We didn't put an ETM on it, and we got I think we have the NA intake manifold on it. So the PCV tube I took is from a P2 setup. From your 99 all the way up to 2004, they got this aluminum PCV tube. I like it because it's aluminum. However, I think it's insufficient for a boosted moose. So if you're running stock setup, this tube is probably fine. I think it's actually smaller than the plastic tube that comes on the 850 because where they bend it and twist and turn it, it narrows down. So it just doesn't carry the air that it needs to help this system work properly. So what we're about to do here is rip that out and put some stuff in there that we got from a hydraulic shop. Let me show you what we got. Went to a hydraulic shop. You know, these folks, they make parts for tractor trailers, different hydraulic lineup applications. Anyway, I chose to go to a hydraulic shop because I knew they'd have hoses and tubing that's designed to carry the stuff that I'm trying to carry. Now, I took these with me, which is the PCV end pieces. This one goes on top of the oil trap box. This one goes on top of the PTC. I told him I needed something that I could stick in there and stick some hose on the other end. Now he initially came out with this hard tubing here. Now my guess is this stuff is similar to what Volvo put on the 850. But, you know, it comes off a roll, different application, different bends in there. It has a OD of 1/2 inch. I would think that this would be sufficient up to about 300, maybe 350 horsepower. So this is 1/2 inch OD, so ID is going to be a little smaller. I'll put a caliper on it later. But you want nothing less than that. Probably take you up to about 325 easy. Push it maybe 350, you might have some issues. Now our issues we're having with Red Baron is it's smoking. When we really boost it, it'll kick the oil dipstick out, which means that it's also trying to back pressure the oil drain. You know, that's not good, especially when you're boosting. So you want a PCV system sufficient enough to carry all your air. Now Matt, you know, the guy that's got that 850 pushing about 700 horsepower, he's got a write-up explaining to his viewers on YouTube, whatnot, of different size stages you might want to step up to as you increase power. Again, this is probably close to stock, doesn't have any smaller areas, restrictions in the curves and stuff like that. I would think this will probably be good, at least up to 300, maybe 325. You go above that, you're going to need something a little bigger. So that stuff there, that plastic tubing, nylon tubing, that's what they call it at the hydraulic shop. This stuff right here, air brake nylon tubing, unit price, I don't know if that's 17 cents an inch. I told them to give me 5 feet of it, $10. Then I had them give me an elbow. This is a quick connect elbow. That's what this thing is here, especially made for that type of tubing. You take that tubing and you press it in there, and this thing will lock that tubing in there. Now, I think the idea of that is close to the idea of that tubing, so whatever that tubing is, again, that should be sufficient. 325 horsepower. Now, I also told him I want something a little bigger, so he comes back with this 1/2 inch push lock hose. So I'm going to say that this hose here, 1/2 inch, good up to 300 psi, flame resistant. I'm pretty sure this can likely take PCV oil vapor. That's why I got it. It's oil line hose, good for high temp, high pressure. So that is definitely 1/2 inch. I told the guy I wanted something I could push this on. He gave me these barb fittings. They don't have to be that long, but at any rate, that barb pushes in the PCV box connector, PCV PTC tube connector. The other end will push into this hose, and we could clamp it down. So that's what we're going to do with this thing. I wanted to have something with like a 90 or 45 degree angle to go around the curve of the cylinder head. So I went by Home Depot. Actually ended up being at what's that place called? Myers? Menards. Got this little poly elbow, 1/2 inch. That tube can push on that. I took a little piece of the tube with me. It can push and probably stay on that with or without a clamp. It's real tight, so I'll probably have to lubricate that to get that on there, but we wanted something that would take that size tubing. We also picked up a couple of other elbows. We got a 45 degree elbow with 3/8 size. That may take it around that curve without any problem. And we got a 90 degree elbow from Menards. So you could try either one of those. The tube will bend a little bit, but you just want to make sure that you don't put this in a position where it crimps going around the corner. You don't want this stuff crimping. I've seen people get this stuff crimped, lose 2 quarts of oil in 3 miles. So, and you could take this thing and hook it up to a catch can if you want. We're not at that point yet. May end up being there, but this is definitely where we're at right now. So we're about to tear the PCV system out of Panther and rig this stuff up. And we got a couple assortments that we can use, and hopefully the PCV system will be sufficient enough for Andrew to drive daily, Red Baron being on the road without all this oil consumption. Man, we're losing probably a quart of oil every 100 miles because that thing is insufficient. He's running out of oil 2 or 3 times, but you know, It's his car, man. He can throw them rods all over the place if he wants. But so let's try to get this installed and see if this helps. On this Red Baron, we're going to take that cross brace off, take this pipe here off, the OTE pipe, and then take this stuff loose so we can get that intake manifold off. Quick and easy. So here we are, folks, down to the nitty gritty. Got the intake pulled away, the PCV pipe there. I got this other tube that goes into the side of the manifold there. So I'm going to go ahead and lift this out of here so you guys can see what this thing is made of and all of its fallacies. So here's the P2A tube. Man, that looks like, at best, it's, I hate to say, 5/16 maybe. We're going to put a caliper on it real quick. Let me show you these other two tubes I got next to them. So here's the other couple of tubes compared to it. That's what the P2As have. This is what probably the 850 have. I'm going back with. And this is what I'm actually going back with on Red Baron, this bigger stuff. So let's hit a caliper, get the idea of these real quick. So the original tube is 3/10 of an inch, which is right almost 8 millimeters. The second tube with the white lining there, it's almost 4/10 of an inch. Looks like almost 11 millimeters. This hose I got here on the end is more than a 1/2 inch. That's what we were shooting for, which it looks like it is 13 millimeters. So that's a big jump from this other tube. It's going to probably give us twice the flow. Let me see if that thing fits in there, which it probably does. Yeah, it slid in there pretty easy. It actually fall off. The thing is so loose on there. So it's probably twice the flow. But we're going to go with this. So let me get the adapters to cause this stuff to work for us. The sad thing about this tube here is that when it takes these turns, it flattens down. You can see it flattening down even right there. So that lowers the amount of air that can flow through that. So through that curve is flattened down, all the way up over this hump, all that's flattened down, and through that curve is flattened down. You know, I just didn't know no better when I put this on there. It's got a flat spot all along there, and then it opens back up. So we're going to get a lot more flow. Let's just put it that way. So I'm going to rig this up to go along this tube, be around this length, and hook this back up. Since we are this far down the road, we're going to pull that box off, hook up a hose to the bottom of it, pour oil down that lower hose, and make sure it flows out of the back of this oil pan, just to make sure this thing is cleared out. If that lower tube down there is full of gunk, we'll be in bad shape. So let me pull that box real quick. The breather box is relatively clear. We pour just a little bit of fresh oil like out of there. Reach down in the hole. I was ready to pull that tip off of there, and this was in the freaking lower hole. I'm going to put the camera down there, see if anything else is down in there. Alright, let's see if anything else is down in there. Oh, looks clear other than that. So I'm going to pull this off, stick our hose on there, put a funnel on there, and pour oil down there, and make sure oil just runs out of the oil pan. No sludge. We're good to go. Drained all the oil, about 2 quarts, into the drip pan down there. Now we're going to put a funnel on here and pour oil down that hole and make sure it rolls right out of the pan. We took this barb fitting, cut up to the 4th notch because too much of it would have been exposed from these things. So we was able to slide the other end all the way in the hose. We put a zip tie on it, and it seems to be holding real well. That's the part that's going to go in the hose on top of the oil trap box. This one is going to go into the hose on top of the PTC tube, and we're going to put the hose in here. So I took this hose, I cut an angle on it, I stuck one of those elbows. We tried to use that 45, I couldn't get it in as well as I could the 90. So we have a 90 in here, we zip tied it, 90 in the other side, zip tied it. This one is the same length of the pipe going from here to here. Now I'm getting ready to cut this hose so that when I put my barb fitting on there, it's long enough to reach to the PTC. So I may cut just a little bit longer, so if I have to bend the tube or something, I can still reach. So I'm gonna give that maybe another inch, and I'll trim it on the car. Here we are, folks, about to go back on with this. So I'm gonna put the box on, secure it, feed this under the intake manifold, put that in that hose, zip tied, fit this other side with that barb on there, popped it off of it, and I'm gonna stick most of the barb in here and that little bit of barb in the tube on top of the PTC like this is, and zip tie those, and we'll be coming around the mountain when we come. Going back together, folks. Get that tube over there connected, new intake manifold gasket, got the oil pipe going on there. As you can see, the line comes around here. We got it connected there and zip tied. We got the PTC vacuum hose back on. Getting ready to put the air filter back on. We got the pipe here on. Got this plugged in. Got the oil dipstick in. We have no oil in the engine, so we're going to dump 6 quarts in there and measure the dipstick just to verify our dipstick is right. And everything's chugging along. Ready to put the OTE pipe on, that air filter on, and drop some oil in here. We'll be ready to roll. Smoke-free environment. If you feel that this information was useful, please like it and share it with your social media friends. You can subscribe to my channel so that you will get notifications of future videos that I post. You can follow me on Twitter, and if you need to contact me directly, please visit my website. And if you have any questions, leave them below, and someone or myself will reply to them. Again, thank you very much for watching.